Let's talk about basic layers. Now this is something that you really need to wrap your brain around because we work with layers all the time in Photoshop Elements. I'm in the expert mode. I go ahead and choose layers from the bottom right hand corner here. I'm going to go with a new blank file. I'm just going to go with inches, maybe a 6 by 6 inches piece of paper, and then we'll dive into the layers here. I'm going to use basic shapes to kind of get us started. So I'm going to go over to my shapes tool, which is U on the keyboard, and you'll notice you have several different ones to pick from. I'm just going to go with a basic rectangle shape. Over here to the right you see that we have a background layer. If I click and drag and make a black box, it will create another layer on top of that background layer. This little icon indicates that it is a shape. Next, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add another shape, so I'm just going to go with maybe a star. And I'm just going to click and drag. I can move that star wherever I want to. I can also change the color of that star by going into my color swatches and picking the color yellow. So what I did was I went back to the custom shape. I see that we can pick a color swatch color from here. It does not have to come from the color swatches. You can also click on here and pick from all of these different colors here as well. But since I just need a basic yellow, I just picked yellow from my color swatches. So now we have 2 layers. Let's just create one more layer. I'm going back to my star tool, or my shape tool, and let's just pick a circle. So I'm just going to click and drag. I can hold down my shift key to make a perfect circle if I want to. It is yellow because I had yellow previously selected, but let's just go with a red. So now I have 3 layers stacked on top of each other. Now if you're a traditional scrapbooker, all you have to think about is how you, when you make your cards or your scrapbook pages, how you keep layering things on top. It should be very simple for you to kind of understand and kind of wrap your brain around. If you were to move this red circle down below the black rectangle, you just drag it and drop it and it will go behind it. If you want to rename your layers, all you have to do is double click on the name there, and I'm just going to call this red circle, and then I'll call this one black square, and then this one, of course, double click on the name, and then yellow star. So I can take and move with my move tool any of these layers, so I can come in here and move them in any area that I want to. But you do know that they are stacked. We also can change the opacity of a layer. So if I wanted to change the opacity of this black square, I go into the upper right hand corner of my layers panel and I can take it down. See how it becomes like a grayscale? I can punch in the numbers if I want to, or just take it from these sliders and move it to whatever opacity I want it to be. So that will stick to the 59%, or I can highlight it and punch in exactly what I want it to be as well. I can delete layers, move layers. I can also duplicate layers. So if I wanted to duplicate this red circle, I can right click on the layer itself and choose duplicate layer. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of that, and now we have 2 circles. If I don't want that layer to stay there, I just drag it and drop it to the trash can up in the upper right hand corner, or I can right click and choose delete layer. So there's always 2 or 3 different ways to do the same thing. You just need to pick what's fastest for you and what works for you. I can also rotate layers if I want to, so I can take this, I can take it from the corner. See how it turns into a double arrow when I go to the corner of my selection? I can take it and rotate it whatever percentage I want to. I can even go down here and move this angle down the bottom area. Once I find the rotation that I like, I click on the green commit current operation, and then it commits it. I can rename layers by just double clicking on it and renaming it something else. I can also move layers around like I just did. I click and drag it. So now the black square is to the top, although it does have an opacity change. you can tell that it is going to the top. Also, you can change the mode, which is now set to normal. I don't know if you're going to see a big difference. Well, that one you do. You see a dissolve. You can go through all of these and click on the arrows to kind of toggle between all these different modes. But since they are a solid color, there's not going to be a big difference. There should be a big difference though when you're using photos. So just remember, inside the layers panel, you do have other modes that you can go into and change. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another thing that you can do is you can add a layer by just clicking on this little dog-eared paper, and that will add a new layer with nothing on it. If you want to, you can also do a hue and saturation or adjustment layers. In this case, I'm not going to talk about it until I get a photo inside of this document. So let's go ahead and bring in a photo. I'm going to go File and Place. You can bring it in two different ways. Let's just bring in this one, place this photo inside of this layout. And again, we can go into the opacity change, so I can take down the opacity. I'm just going to bring it back up to 100%. And let's just kind of play around with the different modes here. So I'm going to go to normal, I'm going to go to dissolve. Looks a little bit different, maybe. Not too bad, not too different. Darken, multiply. Now what it does is it takes it and it takes it to the bottom layers, and it's kind of meshing them together to do a different screen effect or a different dodge, linear dodge, and so on and so forth. So a lot of times it's really hard to know what it's going to do until you actually try it. But it is kind of messing with the bottom layers and taking those different kind of like filters and filter through all of them. Normally you're going to be working in the normal mode, but I did want to let you know that there are different modes here that you can use to kind of, you know, switch things up a bit.